Thank you very much for joining us. Today is very special. It is the finale of our 10-day series. It's our 5th anniversary, and we were exploring presence, practice, and prosperity. And so glad that all of you have been coming back session after session. And that is very heartening because it just goes back to show the kind of work that we're doing together as a community and how it means to all of us, how much it means to all of us to be coming back for more. So thank you. Beyond mentoring, the power of coaching supervision. As we arrive at the closing chapter of Guiding Light's 5th anniversary series, there's a certain completeness in where we end. Over these weeks, we've explored the building blocks of our profession, the mindsets, the skills, the business playbooks. And today, we gather around what many describe as the backbone of coaching itself, supervision. What better way to close this anniversary celebration than by turning to the very practice that sustains coaches, safeguards clients, and elevates the entire profession. Every coach eventually meets a moment where techniques alone isn't enough. A client's story resonates too closely. An ethical dilemma weighs heavy. A subtle shift in the room leaves us wondering if we're fully present. These are not flaws in the coach. These are the realities of working deeply with human beings. The question is, how do we, as coaches, meet those moments? This is where supervision comes in, not as an additional credential, nor as a substitute for mentor coaching or training, but as a reflective, generative space where we examine our practice, discover blind spots, and replenish our inner resources. And the numbers indicate this adoption. In the global coaching supervision study conducted by ICF, 40% of coaches reported engaging in individual supervision and 48% in some point in their career. It is a signal that supervision is not just nice to have, but essential for excellence and maturity in our field. Yet, statistics only tell part of the story. The real impact of supervision is deeply personal. Coaches often describe it as the place where they become more grounded, more resilient, and more ethically tuned. It is where a challenging client interaction transforms into a moment of self-discovery. It is where the isolation of practice gives way to connection and support. For a coach, investing in supervision is investing in the most important instrument you bring to your work, and that is yourself. And in doing so, you ensure that coaching remains not only effective, but ethical, safe, and transformative for individuals, for organizations, and for society at large. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce Sri, who will guide this panel of distinguished voices as they help us explore supervision in all its dimensions, what it is, why it matters, how it feels, and how it can shape the future of coaching. Sri is the co-founder and head coach at Guiding Light Coaching Services, an ICF-accredited coaching education firm dedicated to building purposeful, values-driven coaches. With over 3 decades of leadership and coaching experience, including senior roles at Samsung SDS, Microsoft India, and Hayes PLC, Sri brings together strategic foresight, operational excellence, and a deeply human approach to professional development. In 2020, Sri made a values-aligned shift into full-time coaching and co-founded Guiding Light Coaching Services. Today, he mentors over 300 coaches with a strong emphasis on the ICF portfolio path, helping coaches navigate their credentialing journey with intention, authenticity, and rigor. His work has produced 7 MCC credential holders, supported 30+ coaches on their path to mastery, and trained 100+ aspiring coaches through the Level 1 program. Sri is also the visionary behind the Coaches Circle, a thriving peer-led community of 350 coaches who are either credentialed or actively in training. This community is designed as a purely educational and supportive space governed by a strong code of conduct. Its signature program, the Learning Fridays, is a weekly platform where coaches share tools, frameworks, case studies, and coaching philosophies, promoting peer coaching, collective growth, clarification of competencies, and awareness of evolving industry trends. The Coaches Circle is also a curated space for posting credentialing, training, and coaching opportunities, making it a very valuable professional resource. Sri is an MCC with over 5,000 hours of coaching experience, working with senior leaders, entrepreneurs, and emerging coaches. He also holds a diploma in coaching supervision, which informs his reflective, presence-based supervision style that supports deep coach development and ethical maturity. An alumnus of IIT Kharagpur with a BTech honors in electronics and communication engineering, Sri brings both analytical depth and emotional presence to his coaching and leadership. His mission is to elevate the coaching profession through authentic mentorship, deep reflective spaces, and a strong culture of learning. He champions the idea that mastery is less about performance and more about becoming, cultivating presence, patience, and purpose at every stage of the coach's journey. Over to you, Sri.
Thank you, Madhu, for elaborate and wonderful introduction. So let me invite my panel members one after the other. Let me just get Cecile in first. And then let's have Elsie. Lakshan, if you can get Elsie in the spotlight. And then, of course, Rekha. Yeah. Okay, so this is what we will do. I will allow them to take turns and introduce themselves. I don't have the caliber and the capacity to introduce them the way that Madhu introduced me. So I'll leave the job to them first. And then we will get into a panel discussion and see what emerges. Yeah, Cecile, maybe you want to go first?
Do I want to go first? So hello, everybody. So my name is Cecile Hemery. I'm originally from France, but I live in the UK. So I've got a background of 15 years working in tech, more specifically in mobile gaming, for those who play. And I shifted my career about 5-6 years ago to become a coach. And I specialize in working with overthinking tech leaders, the people who have the good girl or the good student syndrome and who really want to do a good job, but sometimes that can get in their way. And more recently, graduated as a supervisor and now adding this to my offering. So delighted to be here, and thank you, Sri, for inviting me and for the rest.
You're welcome, Cecile. Yeah, who's going next?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Leanne Cusimano Roque, LC Roque. I am in the United States on the East Coast in Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C. Srikanth and I were in the same cohort for our diplomas in coaching supervision, and I appreciate the invitation. I have been coaching since 2004. Back in the day, there were maybe 10 accredited coach training programs. And before that, I practiced law for a decade, both in the federal government space and in private practice as a litigator. As a coach, I primarily work with people who have been promoted as stellar individual contributors in technical fields to leadership positions, lawyers, scientists, engineers, some tech people. And the thing I like to say is I help to be the bridge from doing to being.
You're welcome. Elsie.
Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you all. I am Rekha Radhakrishnan. I'm based in Gurgaon, which I'm sure a lot of people you know. It would be as a part of Delhi NCR. I come with 19 plus years of professional experience, being in human resources and talent acquisition and talent management in my erstwhile roles. I moved into the field of coaching about 8+ years ago, and I'm very passionate to learn more about human behavior. That led me into the journey of coaching and also opened the field in psychology for me as well. And yeah, supervision happened to me about 2.5 years ago, and I recently got my accreditation with the EMCC as well. So, and yeah, I'm here with all of you, and thank you to Shri and the entire team of Guiding Light for really bringing up these learning series. It's a lovely way to learn from different people, different styles, and different backgrounds. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Rekha. So yes, this is what we are going to do. I have a list of questions that we gathered from all the registrations. So we have close to 115 registrations. Not so many questions though. I will also request you to put your questions on the chat box, and I will weave those questions into the panel discussion. A lot of questions, we may not be able to respond to all of that, but keep the questions coming, we'll collate and maybe we will send it to them later, get some responses. Okay, so I got introduced to coaching when I stepped into my MCC journey. Many years after I started getting trained as a coach, I wish I got to know about coaching supervision much earlier in my life. So I have a question for Cecile, on the spot, right, Cecile? How would you describe coaching supervision to someone who is very new to this space?
Yeah. So I would say it's like having someone to help you make sure that you're doing the right thing. I think like when you do your training, like you're very supported, you know, there's the teachers, there's the course, there's the material, there are your peers. So you're a little bit like in a bubble, you know, of lots of people here, there to help you. And then you graduate. And then there's a bit of a void, you know, like maybe you kept in touch with other people or you join some communities, but you know, there might come this lingering doubt of like, you know, am I really as good as I think I am, you know, like am I doing this right? And you know, maybe you have friends, you know, coach's friend that you can ask those questions to, and but like you don't really want to look like the one who's not really getting it right. And so I guess supervision is the answer to that. It helps you like, you know, check in with yourself, like how are you showing up in your sessions? Are you doing the right things? Are you you know, handling things better or maybe worse, you know, than you think you are? But also like how is your own personal journey through that? How are you managing your emotions? How are you keeping yourself safe, you know, emotionally from some of the very heavy stuff that might come out in the sessions that you're in? And also like making sure that when you are facing tricky situations, then you know what to do, and if you don't know what to do, then you know who to ask so that you can figure out what the solution is. So it's like your little personal support system to help you navigate that and to have your own little personal bubble of support that carries on the whole of your journey and doesn't stop as long as you don't want it to stop.
One of my favorite phrases is doing the right thing. I heard you say that a couple of times, and you showing up to your client and about your emotional resilience, maybe for a lack of word. So I'm just going to ask this question to Elsie. When I got to know about coaching supervision for a long time, I was confused between mentor coaching and getting coached as a coach. So in your view, Elsie, what is the fundamental difference between all these three different spaces: coaching, supervision, mentor coaching, and coaching a coach?
I think this is a great question, Srikanth, because it's not obvious. And I think it depends on your regulatory body too, right? International Coach Federation or EMCC, or where you are in the world. So everyone here, I believe, is a coach. So you've all experienced being coached. So if you have a coach as a client, if I have a coach as a client, it's the same thing. I use the competencies at whatever highest level I can do. I will say it's easy usually to coach coaches because they know the competencies and they can play along. So if you want coaching, you know what it is, you already have that experience. Mentoring, as I see it, as the International Coach Federation defines it, is specifically for observed coaching. So if a coach comes to me and says, hey, I'd like you to mentor me, then I either observe them live coaching or listen to their recordings and then give them feedback on the competencies and ethics. That's mentoring. That's the thing. And I have been a trainer with an accredited coach training program. I don't anymore, but I have been. So I've done a lot of training. I've had mentoring. And I've still felt like there was this thing missing, that especially as a more mature coach, because supervision has not been very well known in the United States. So it was more because I'm part of an international community of coaches that my European colleagues talked about supervision. So I got curious about it because I didn't know exactly this question that you're asking. What the heck is supervision? When I found a supervisor for myself, what I found is really for me, it's a co-equal partnership relationship. Like it's a colleague, somebody like Cecile was saying, I can talk to and say, hey, I have this thing going on in one of my coaching engagements. What do you think about it? And that can be, we haven't said the words, but in supervision, we talk about normative, formative, restorative. So normative, is it aligned with whatever coaching ethics and competencies you're following? And it doesn't have to be observed coaching. It can just be something I bring to my supervisor. Formative, who do I want to be as a coach? And that's a huge thing. That's where I found the most richness so far, at least in supervision, is that because we as coaches have to know ourselves in order to be there for the client, that's my belief, being able to take those things into supervision that I feel like are getting in the way. Hey, I got very emotional, or, what's that about when in the coaching? That piece is really critical in supervision. And then the restorative, I think even more so today, there's so many things happening in the world that maybe are different than what we might like or form for ourselves, that being able to be held as we hold our own clients is key.
Just a follow-up question to you on that, Elsie. While you spoke about the three different roles of a supervisor, mentor coaching, you said you as a coach either would observe somebody coaching live and then give them feedback based on your observations, technical competencies. That's what I heard you say. Yes. In supervision, I think I have this question later, but let me just bring it a little earlier and ask this question. What kinds of topics can you bring into a supervision session with your supervisor?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Anything. That's what I love about supervision. I can bring my whole self, and my coaches coming to me for supervision can bring their whole self. It could be something like one thing, like I'll give two examples. One I brought to my supervisor, and then one someone I was supervising brought to me. I was doing team coaching, and even as an experienced coach, I was having some role confusion, right? Target, am I being a consultant? Am I being the team coach? And so I knew something was wrong, but because I was in the middle of it, it was really helpful to come to my supervisor and say, this is what's going on. What is this? What am I missing? And then someone I was supervising said to me, you know, I'm at the end of an engagement and the client wants to continue, but I'm doing it as a sub. And so how do I handle this with the contractor, the sponsor, the client, that kind of thing? So it could be normative like that, but it could also be formative.
Right. Yeah, thank you. So there's a question on the chat, but I'm going to put a question to Rekha and come back to this question in a little while. I want to give a little bit of space. Rekha, I know you're a huge proponent of coaching supervision. Being a PCC, though I know you can be a mentor coach, you have chosen not to be a mentor coach and you focus on being a coaching supervisor. What makes supervision a must-have and not just a nice to have?
Yeah. So I'm going to share a little small story here as I answer this question. The first time I got to hear the term supervision was way back in 2019 when I did my Theory U program under Professor Otto Sharma. And my batchmate was a supervisor for teachers in Germany. And that's when I asked her, what is this supervision? And way back, Otto Sharma talks about systems thinking and listening and lots of other things, right? Now, what happens is the coaching journey for a coach, in my thought process, actually starts after your coaching credential. During your coaching credential is when you're learning the competencies, imbibing those competencies, starting to work with clients, working with different kinds of people. But it's a lonely journey, like Elsie also shared. Cecile also mentioned it very briefly, right? But how do you support yourself, right? Sometimes we tend to reach out for help when we are in a problem or where we don't know how to go about it. But if you start looking at this from the beginning for yourself, it'll help you to move towards the journey of who you want to be as a coach. The movement from, that I'm doing to be a coach here to embodying the coach that you want to be. And the reason is a must-have is because a lot is happening in a coaching conversation. Two human beings are interacting, two systems are interacting together, and there's a lot that's happening in the system. So how can you support yourself while you show up to your client the way that you want to show up there? So it's about how you can have it as an ongoing support rather than looking at it like, okay, this is the challenge and hence I use the solution to support myself and that's over, right? So when you start on a regular basis taking support through supervision, it becomes like a very important core part of your own support system. The most important things for a coach, in my experience and in my belief, is presence is competence, self-care and self-regulation is non-negotiable. I'm going to pause here because I feel these three are so important for us as coaches the moment we are in this profession. And that's usually the entire journey for a coach.
Presence, self-regulation, and self-care.
Yes.
Three important things for a coach. So I'm just going back to one of you can respond, Elsie or maybe Cecile. But the question came from what Elsie had responded. The question is, can you give examples of what a coach might bring to discussion if it is normative, formative, or restorative? Any one of you can, or both of you can choose to give examples and respond.
So, well, for normative, so normative is about, checking the ethic side of things, and, what's the right thing to do, the right approach. So an example of that could be, like you're being asked by a company to do a coaching engagement, and you feel that there is some conflict. For example, you're being asked to manage the manager of a team and the team members. I mean, this may be a little bit of an obvious example, but and you're like, is it okay for me to do that? Or how do I get myself how do I explain that this is not necessarily the ethical thing to do? Like, what do I do with that request? And so that's the kind of questions, or you find yourself in situations where you just don't know if doing something is going to make it better or making it worse. And so that's the normative part, to get clarity on those situations. The formative side, it's really about skill. So it's more linked to the competency things, like, am I using the right tools? Like, am I, steering the client towards a resolution of their problems that they find themselves? Like, how do I empower them, inspire them, like give them options? Give them the space for them to bring up options to that. So it's really about like the skills. And the restorative is about like how you're feeling about it, like, and very much about this self-regulation, self-care, and the presence, because all of that is linked. Like an example that I had recently about that was a client that shared, a coach that shared that a client asked him to be a bit tougher. And initially, that coach, came to me, wanted to look at this from a formative perspective, like what is the skills to be a little bit tougher? But actually what we realized exploring that is that he had an emotional reaction to that word being tough in a session. And so we realized that what was getting in the way was not the formative aspect of things, but the restorative aspect of things, and to dig into this emotional reaction and what to do with that in that context.
So maybe, Elsie, you can quote examples from your personal supervision sessions and how you benefited from any one of these roles.
Yeah, I think, I hope you don't mind, I did notice the question about supervision and mentoring and being—
I'll come to that. I'll come to that.
I think it's, the thing is that my experience, at least, of supervision is that it's a in the training, they say it's an asymmetrical co-equal relationship. So yes, we're coming to the supervision with something that we want to discuss. And it's not necessarily, and it's not that it's an unfortunate word, right? Because the supervision comes from the therapy realm, where often a supervisor does have input on what the therapist's next round is. Cecile probably can speak to that more than I can. But in coaching, it's meant to be more co-equal. So when you talk about, here, I want to go back and look again, right, is that examples of what a coach might bring to discussion if it is normative, formative, and restorative. I think the thing that I would say up front is we don't always know as a coach when we come to supervision what it's going to be. It's just that I know what I do is I go back and look over the last month, because I usually meet with my supervisor once a month. What coaching meetings have I had, and what is niggling, right? What's maybe I have a question or something about it, going back to my supervisor. What do I want to talk about? And then in the supervision is where we tease out what it is. And it might be some of all three, or it might be focused on one in particular. For example, I have historically done a lot of federal government work, and I'm also coaching a lot of people who were fired, or RIFT, it's called, reduction in force, or decided to exit the government. And, that's an emotional topic. So that's something I can bring to my supervisor, like Rekha said, about how do I maintain my own center while working with coaches, clients and coaches who have been affected by this change in what's happening.
I can add another example to what a formative, normative, and restorative could look like. When your client is just circling around different things that they just want to talk about, they're not sure what they really want to work on. The coaching space starts looking and feeling like a venting space, right? And a lot of times your client comes and tells you, yeah, I'm feeling, very great, and thank you for holding me for the space for me to really vent out what I had in mind. So how do you deal with that as a coach? 1 session, 2 sessions, 3 sessions. And then what is it that you start feeling within yourself when your client only comes to the space to vent and does nothing else? That's so how you are holding space for the client. What are you agreeing for that can come under the formative space of what you can bring? The other piece, normative, is, what are we agreeing for? What is the outcome that your client wants, right? What is it that the takeaway that they're looking at? Of course, yeah, there are clients who are not sure what they want, and a coach can support to arrive at what might be the most important things that they want to work on for themselves. The restorative element is, what is it that you're noticing in yourself when your client is coming to constantly vent and do nothing about it after that? They keep going back to the same thing, back again and again, right? So how do you support yourself? So your supervisor can help you to uncouple all these small things. It's not that you're not following competencies, you're not doing the right thing. You may be doing all the right thing, but what needs to happen for you to be able to be there as a coach? That's another example of formative, normative, and restorative.
I think that's a great example. And the other one I'll say that often comes up with newer coaches is business development. Yeah. People bring that to supervision as well. Like, how do I get my clients? Who are the clients that I want to get? Yeah, that's an appropriate topic for supervision too.
Yeah. So going back to what all topics can you bring? You can bring anything under your coaching profession. Yeah. All right. So there is not a question, a statement on the chat box. I'm going to read that and then ask a question. One of you can just choose to respond it. Mentoring sounds like a non-reporting relationship. Supervision sounds like a reporting relationship. Still not clear about difference in the context of coaching. That's a statement. And my question to you is, what exactly happens in a coaching supervision session? Elsie?
Yeah. Okay. And we had this experience, right, in supervision training, is that people had some trouble at first distinguishing between coaching and supervision. So I start my supervision meetings exactly the way I start a coaching meeting. Anything you'd like to do to become present? What is it that is on your mind? What would you like to have by the end of our time together? The place where it gets different is that I would say there's more availability to use prescriptive interventions in my mind, and I'm more comfortable using what are called prescriptive interventions in supervision than I am in coaching. So what's an example? So So let's say the coach says to me, hey, I'm thinking about referring someone to whatever, to a therapist, let's say. And I'm going to give the therapist the client's name. So that to me is a normative piece because it affects the confidentiality. That it's not up to the coach to give the name of the client to the therapist. So I'll say that. Whereas in a coaching engagement, I might not say that. I might ask, well, what have you explored in terms of what the parameters are, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, so just to respond to that statement, the way that I would look at the difference between mentoring and supervision is, mentoring, you're going to a mentor coach to get their expert input as to how you are performing in a particular competency or across all competencies to reach a particular level. Yeah. So if you're an ACC coach looking forward to become a PCC coach, and then there's a gap that you need to fill, so you go to a mentor who is a PCC or an MCC and get input. So I'm looking at mentor coaching, the mentor coach as an expert. In coaching supervision, the coaching supervisor, just because the name label supervisor is there, they are not the supervisor, meaning they're not overlooking your shoulders. They have a better vision. Yeah, it's still equal partnership. The supervision space is a reflective space for you to have a dialogue and then draw insights from the conversation, and also insights the supervisor already has. They have experience. So sometimes it may sound prescriptive, but it is not prescriptive. Okay, that's the way to put it. Yeah. Okay, so Cecile, I have this question for you. Let's assume that there's a new coach comes to you.
Mm-hmm.
First session, coaching supervision. What can they expect from you?
To get to know each other a little bit better. But I think like the first session is always about contracting, and contracting is a word that comes a lot of in my practice of supervision. A lot of the issues or points of discomfort that we talk about that often are linked back to contracting. So contracting is really, really important piece. And what it is, it's not the signature of a contract, saying that I'm going to work with you. It is about what do we agree to do together. So of course within that there is what is it that the coach would like to achieve, and but also what is it that I can or cannot do, presenting what supervision can and cannot do, what do I expect from the supervisee, what can they expect from me, what are the limits that they want to share with me, and just it's like building foundations of what the relationship is going to look like, and what they can bring to a session, and how we're going to work together. So it's really foundation building. And I also invite them to tell me about themselves, obviously, but how they like to work. I mean, I do this also in my coaching sessions, but I'm here to support you. If what I'm doing is not supporting you, well, I need to know. And I would like you to tell me, because I'm here to support you. So if I'm not doing that right, I'm not happy with myself, and it's not that it's not about me, but giving them permission to from the beginning, and making it normal to say what's coming up for them. It's not it's not a passive practice. It's not because I'm the supervisor that even what I say is the truth. It's not. It's guidance, and part of the contracting is making sure that that they know the space they have to agree, to disagree, and to have something that really works for them. Is that clear?
Yeah. So, I had introduced coaching supervision to my level 1 cohort, and I did a demo. And so after the demo was over for 20 minutes, some of them said, "Hey, it looks like a coaching session. How is it different?" So it will look like a coaching session because you're still contracting. The way that you are contracting for a coaching session, you will contract for a coaching supervision session as well. Hey, what is the topic that you want to bring in? What is that you want to take away? How do you know that you got whatever you wanted, and so on and so forth. The difference is in the role the supervisor will play based on the topic that you bring. So if you bring a topic which is very skill based, it will more or less look like you are having a coaching conversation with the supervisor, right? Because it's skill based. But if you're bringing something like ethical dilemma or something to do with your personal well-being, you are getting triggered for something, it may vary. So now I'm going back to Rekha because this was about a year ago. One of my MCC mentees brought an issue for mentor coaching, and I very clearly said, hey, this does not fall under mentor coaching. You have to work with a supervisor. And I directed that person to Rekha, and I believe Rekha and they work together and seen a lot of development. So Rekha, the question to you is, when somebody comes to you for coaching supervision, how can they expect to grow as a coach?
Yeah. So supervision and, Cecile and Elsie have also mentioned that there are 3 aspects to supervision: the developmental, well-being, and protective aspect. Now, as coaches, it's, we will have our own development areas that we want to work on ourselves, right? Sometimes it can be different spectrum of things that how do I may still struggle to work with, say, male senior leaders as a coach. Or I might be young, oh, I'm going to coach a CEO. It's like, am I really, capable to coach a CEO in that sense? So there can be a lot of things that a coach wants to develop on themselves. So this is the space to identify also your struggle areas as a coach. Where are you struggling? Where are you doing well? Where do you want to go as a coach for yourself as well? Because this is a space like you hold a mirror to your client, your supervisor holds the same mirror for you. While your client is working on their developmental goals, this is a space where your supervisor is supporting to work on your developmental goals as a coach. How do I deepen my presence, for example? Sometimes I feel I'm interrupting a lot my client. So this is a space that you work on your development. Your coach along with your coach, it's a co-creative process and a relationship where you take help of your coach, or if you're clear, then you work with your supervisor saying, okay, these are my areas that I find it challenging for me to grow as a coach, and these are the outcomes that I want to have. So it also helps you to uncover your blind spots, your unconscious biases. Your client can come up with things that might be exactly the same scenario that you're going through in different parts of your life, but you don't know how to deal with it for yourself there. So supervision is a space to work on, okay, how do I manage myself as a coach in those moments where I'm not moving to a direction where maybe I go with what I hear as an idea that my client wants to do to apply for myself or whatever, or vice versa, right? So this is a space where you can work on identifying your development areas as a coach for yourself, and then you can work towards that. You can choose what goal you want to have. You can choose what outcome you want to see for yourself. And that's where supervision comes as a support to you. Just like
Sure.
you walk the journey along with your client, your supervisor walks the journey along with you.
Sure. So there are two long questions that Junaid had put. I'm going to keep it now. I will bring it later. There's a short question. I want all of you to respond to this. Niral is asking this question. Unlike coaching, does supervision include advice?
Yes and no.
Cecile?
Well, just like Rekha said, I think it can look a lot more like advice than what coaching is. But you know, like, I mean, as someone who's a coach, you know, the word advice, you know, always feels like a very tricky pass. But as Elsie said earlier, like, you can take a lot more like a prescriptive approach. And I would say that if you see someone going down the rabbit hole, like your supervisee going down the rabbit hole, or going into a direction that you know is not going to lead them where they want to go, then you can just reframe and say, hey, here's what's happening. Here's what people in this situation would normally do. So like the support that you can get can be a lot more direct than what you would offer as a coach. And so I think it can look like advice in some cases, but there are also some aspects of it where it's up to the coach, you know, to decide what they're going to do with it. And so in those cases, it isn't advice that's going to be the answer. It's they have to choose how they want to answer to the situation. So long story short, it's yes and no, depending on what the topic is and what the consequences are. It can look like advice, or we can steer away from it like we would in a coaching session.
Sure. Elsie?
Yeah, well said, both of you, right? It's absolutely, it can look like advice. I'll say as a supervisor, it's not my preference to start in advice mode. I'll also say that I have coaches in supervision who, because you all are coaches, you know often, do I want coaching or do I want advice? And so sometimes in supervision, a coach will start off with me and say, all right, I know the whole coaching thing, but I want advice here. Tell me about your experience, or tell me what you think. So, yeah.
May I add one thing?
Sure, right.
What I've noticed as well is, like, depending on the experience of the coach, you know, whether it's a newly qualified coach or whether it's a seasoned coach, obviously that depends a lot, because as a new coach, there's a lot of stuff you just don't know because you haven't had a chance to experience it yourself. And so there might be a little bit more of education, you know, on that front than you would do with a more experienced coach.
So Sudha has asked the question. Sudha, I'm just holding on to that question now. We'll come back because there's time for participants to ask question, and I allow you to ask the question. But there's a comment and a question. I'll just read it and let's see whether you want to respond to it or you just want to move. So Anchal has mentioned in the chat, mentoring could be compared to a performance review, while supervision is a safe space for reflection, self-awareness, and quality of service the coach provides. That's a question person is asking. It's similar to a coaching session in terms of structure, contracting, goal setting, etc., but differs later as the supervisor supports you on your goals and can use prescriptive interventions. My understanding. She's looking for validation, I think. What do you feel? Let's see, you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good description. I actually, right, and I think a lot of high-performing individuals may feel more discomfort. Now, as coaches, we have to manage that, right? When someone watches and evaluates my coaching as done in mentoring than I do in supervision, where I go in as a co-equal. So it's, and also because this is very much my mind frame, right? Is that there are so many ways to coach that I think it really depends on who the mentor is, on what it's possible to get out of mentoring. So, yeah, I'm sure that's true with supervision too. But yeah, I do think of mentoring as mentor coaching in particular as being more of a performance review. Hey, are you meeting the mark? And supervision as being more of a safe space.
Cecile?
I wonder if also that might come from the intention with which you choose to engage into mentoring or you choose to engage in supervision. Like as you said earlier, it's mentoring is often more related to, you know, going from ACC to PCC or to PCC to MCC. So like there is a specific intention of I want to pass, you know, and I have to do my 10 hours of mentoring so that I can get to the next step. So the posture that you come in a mentoring session is entirely different than in a supervision. Like unless you're accredited with the EMCC, where supervision is actually a part of the accreditation and the renewal process. If you're accredited with the ICF, supervision is something that you can choose or not choose to do. But so it's really like a something that you choose to do for yourself. Like no one's forcing you. So I think why you're choosing to engage with this also makes a big difference in what that relationship is going to look like and what you're going to get out of it.
I want to add something here.
Sure.
While there are different levels of credential in coaching, but mentor coach and supervisors and coaches, there is no hierarchy as such.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
a support of ecosystem that is there to support you as a coach, right? You go and work with the mentor coach for your understanding, deepening of your competencies. You work with the supervisor to support you in building your own capacity as a coach.
Yeah.
While you're building capability, you also build capacity as a coach.
Right, right. So there's a question from Nirali. I'm going to read the question and I'm going to give my answer and y'all can give your answers, right? Nirali is asking this question: what will motivate me to go to a coaching supervisor versus engaging in a peer coaching with a seasoned coaches, maybe moving from PCC to MCC journey to address my formative, restorative issues? My response to that is, going back to what Rekha said, ACC, PCC, MCC, sir, levels of growing in your coaching credentials. It's not a hierarchy. If you want to get supervised, you have to be supervised by somebody who is trained as a supervisor. There are competencies required to be a supervisor. Just because somebody is an MCC, if they don't have the competencies to be a supervisor, they cannot supervise you. That's the very reason when one of my mentees came to me with an issue, I very promptly, gracefully passed it on to Rekha because I was not equipped as a supervisor. That's a short answer. I let you answer the same question.
So when you say that one wants to work with probably a peer coach, right? Are you going with the intention to support yourself as a coach or as a client to be coached? Who are you being there? But if you want to support yourself, for you to develop as a coach, then you have to go to a supervisor. Let me give a very lame example here. If you go to it's like going to a general physician or a specialist or a surgeon. There is value and merit in indulging in peer coaching, working with a coach, but it is your choice about what identity that you're going with. Are you going in the role of a coach to get coached from a coach, or are you going to work as an individual for yourself?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, I think Srikanth's point about being a coaching supervisor is a specific set of skills that requires training is the same point that we as coaches make, is that anyone can go out and hang up their shingle saying, I'm a coach. But what's the difference between what you get from them and what you get from somebody who is trained as a professional coach? It's the same thing with supervision. And the other thing I would just add from a practical perspective is you can count your some of up to, I think it's 10 hours every 3 years of your being supervised hours towards your continuing education requirements for ICF.
It's combined mentoring and supervision hours.
Fine. No,
Separate, I think.
No,
It's
it
not
is
10
separate.
Supervision and 10
Separate.
hours of mentoring. It's
Yeah.
10 hours of mentoring or
Yeah.
supervision.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, but
All
if
right.
you're going for your renewal of your credential, then up to 10 hours of supervision you can use for your continuous credit
Yeah.
as well.
All right. So I have going on to the other questions I have with me. I'm going back to Elsie on this. How is group supervision different from one-on-one supervision? Elsie, that's your question.
That's my question. So I'll say it, that Srikanth knows, because we were in the same cohort, that I had a lot of resistance to group supervision at the start. I'm an introvert by nature, so going into group supervision wasn't my first choice. What have I learned doing group supervision is that the thing about it is you get, just like here we are on the panel, you're getting our different perspectives. You get different perspectives from group supervision that you're not going to get one-on-one, or you may not get one-to-one. And the other thing I'll say, because right now I'm kind of in the midst of learning more about integrated family systems and constellations, is that in a group, different people play different roles. So you may get more, you may have more access to some of the underlying themes or topics that, or I don't want to say, or the what's happening kind of in the universal sense, not just the one-to-one. So
Yeah, just to add to that, Cecile, you want to say something about the difference?
Yeah, I mean, I'm also a massive introvert. Like, talking like this is not my natural habitat. And you can see that I'm waiting patiently for someone to call my name to say something, you know, or like, so like for me, you know, like group, as a coach, you know, engaging in a group, supervision group is a little bit tougher than it might be to engage in a one-to-one, because like I need to feel safe, you know, like to be able to really open up myself, you know. And I think this chemistry, you know, around when do you feel that something's happening with that group, and then you can feel safe and you can show the whole of yourself. Like there's a little bit of magic in there, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it's not. And so you've got to get the feel of what works. So that is what you're getting. Does it work, or does it match with who you are? And one other thing I'd say is that I know me personally, I would not bring the same stuff in a group setting and in a one-on-one setting. So just because I'm human, and there are stuff that, you know, is hard to confess in front of a group of people, you know. There may be silly stuff that no one cares about, but, you know, I care about them, and it's hard for me to tell them to a lot in front of a number of people that is more than two, and me including. And so for that reason, I would say it's always, for me, I guess my preference, it would be to have one-on-one so that I can, because with my personality, that's what I can really get, but also to remind myself that there is a wealth of different perspectives that exist and I can get from group coaching, and it's healthy to dip in and out of this, even if it requires a little bit more effort from my end.
So I'm hearing from you that making yourself vulnerable among so many coaches in a group setting is a little difficult for you than doing it one-on-one with a coaching supervisor.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rekha, you have had a vast experience in coaching, doing coaching supervision for teams and organizations and so on and so forth. So my question to you is, how does coaching supervision change when working with corporates, teams, or across different cultures?
So there's something in supervision where we look at it from a very systemic approach, right? Now, what is a systems approach is typically in a corporate coaching engagement when you engage with an organization. So your sponsors are different, your stakeholders are different, and your coachee is another system. So supervision helps you to sometimes bring more clarity to yourself as a coach, whether you're going for an individual coaching engagement or a group coaching engagement or even for a team coaching engagement. Now, I'm talking more from a coaching perspective, not from a leader requiring supervision or, now there are internal coaches as well. Earlier coaches mostly were outside the organizations and they would coach people. Now there are leaders who are being internal coaches as well. For them, supervision is absolutely important. How do you draw boundaries between in fact, multiple different roles that you play? A reporting manager, overall a team leader, then if you're coaching somebody in your team, right? Then how do you identify or tread between those fine lines between three different roles that you play, which is a part of your social identity? That's very, very important. The nuances that when do I wear a coach's hat? When do I be the manager? When do I be the leader? So from an internal coaching point of view, it's very, very important because it helps you to work on a lot of very finer nuances. It's not about your listening skills or presence or empathy or whatever, but it's about understanding where the space that you're coming from. Now, in a larger coaching engagement where if you're coaching a team, there could be different dynamics as a team that you have to deal with. Now, when you're working with one person, that's one-on-one, but when you're working with a team, you're working with multiple people and the role of a coach that you're playing there. So there are multiple level of contracting that you do. Sometimes you can get caught up and you can just feel like, am I a coach or am I part of this team? Then how do you uncover that for yourself, for you to show up as a coach for yourself the way you want to coach? So all those finer nuances is where supervision comes into the picture, where this is a space that you can go to a supervisor and look at it from both a macro lens and also a micro lens together.
So I heard you say that coaching supervision is very, very important for internal coaches. While it is very important for internal coaches, it is important for all the coaches, is my strong belief is. Now that we have trained as coaching supervisors, how can we build awareness about coaching supervision for the coaching community and also make it available for this community? This question is for all of you.
I think we need to talk about it because I, as a starting coach, didn't know about supervision. You know, like a leader acting as a coach probably won't know about coaching supervision either. So I think it's about being visible and vocal about what it is. And it's not because it's coaching supervision that is just for coaches. It's for anyone who is having coaching engagements or relationships with people. So I think it's just something we have to talk about wherever we can, you know, on social media, in spaces like this, or so that people know that this is something that's available. Conversations needs to be had about it.
Yeah, and I think Srikanth, what Guiding Light is doing is key, right? Wrapping coaching supervision into training. And that's, I'm involved here in the States with the training program that's working on that as well. So I think the more we can push for that, you know, ICF just released its updated competencies. And they now
too.
mention
coaching and coaching supervision are mandatory. Absolutely.
Yes. So
absolutely.
I think that that's changing, but also I think talking about it with other coaches that we know so we can share our own experiences, but then also going to professional events, conferences, our local chapters, whatever, to talk with people about it. And I really like the thing that you said that you did a demo, because I think I'm just reading the questions in the chat, and I think the demo is helpful too. People can experience it that way. So I don't know, maybe we do something, if we could even put together some kind of video or something demo so that people can access that on demand. That would be great.
Yeah. I want to add that ICF also has a communities of practice of supervision, just like they have other communities of practice. So a lot of coaches globally attend those communities of practice. Or if you hear from a coach saying that they take support from supervision, go with a curious mind to learn, you know, understand what it is, ask curious questions. If you've heard the term supervisor and how it might be supportive, try it out. It's about, you know, going with that curiosity to try it out, saying, okay, well, I hear everybody talking about now ICF has also started to include, EMCC always had from the beginning, Association of Coaching always had from the beginning. Can I go and just experience what it is for me to understand and know that when I should reach out and when I don't need that support? It's okay to not have that support.
Yeah.
So it's about being curious to know, and I can share from experiencing even clinical supervision, because the world of psychology also, since I'm trained in Gestalt and Constellation and now trauma informed being in somatic experiencing, from the day one of training we've had supervision. So it was never an alienated concept for me when I began. And what I have noticed in my experience, it really helps me to embody who I am.
Okay, I have one question, but I'm going to ask that towards the end. Lakshan, if you can put Junaid on spotlight, I'll allow him to ask his questions. And then maybe we'll go to Sudha. Put him on the spotlight. Yeah, Junaid, go ahead and ask.
Hello. Yeah. So my question is, let me bring my second question first. So what coaching supervision as a space can bring to the table in terms of marketing? Market actually demands a lot of values, a lot of accountability from the coach, right? And what you have been trained as a coach is trust the process, and results will yield out of it. So how coaching supervision, can bridge that conflict or bridge that gap? That was my first question. And the second question that I have is sometimes even just like Peter J. Reading also mentioned in last sessions on 15th, that you have your my stuff list when you are coaching, right? And what happens, you are constantly observing your coachee suffering a lot from lots of issues. They don't want to open so many doors because they are not ready, right? And it's not something like you are thinking to advise them, or you are thinking to go out of your role as a coach and basically help them because you know solutions for them. I'm not saying that way, but the point is sometimes you just want to come out of your role as a coach, or if you don't, then you feel it's not good as a human being. You are not compassionate, or you are not empathetic enough to help them, that why don't you simply open that door and see what's at the other side. It can actually diminish, it can actually kill their fear, or that problem, or the suffering very early stage. So it's always been my dilemma, and how coaching supervision can actually come in that role and help, because sometimes we as a coach, we are not trained for so many different scope of services, or scenarios. And what we do, we refer them to therapist, right? And they get themselves treated, they come back to the normalcy, and then they start their coaching process. But sometimes even they don't want to open that part as well. So what coaching supervision can add to that? I hope I explain the scenarios. Thank you so much to allow me to share my things. Thank you.
Okay, who's taking that question?
I have an example about the business one. Like one of my coaches came to a coaching supervision meeting saying, I have this other skill, and that skill pays me, quite a bit, right? And coaching pays me on an hourly basis. The other skill, he had a block of hours, right? He would get paid for that, versus coaching, which is often an hour at a time. And so we walk through, okay, well, what is, how much do you want to make? What's the proportion that you want for using this other skill, using coaching? Who are the coaching clients that you want to work with? That kind of, okay, now where do you find them? What are the things you want to do? So those kinds of things. It's coaching as well, but also I think this question as well about that trust, right? Who do you want to be? But because I'll just say from my own experience, and I bring this with me as a coach and as a supervisor, that the more I know myself, the more clarity I have about who I am, things just flow better. Everything just, more clients come in, with ease. I don't know. There's no rational explanation for it. It just is.
Can I add also that trusting the process is not the same as not doing anything to develop your business?
Correct. You're right.
Yeah, I think when I came out of my coaching certification, I saw that, yeah, I'm a coach, I'm the big thing now, like people are gonna flow to me because I'm so awesome. And then I quickly realized that it doesn't work that way. And I had this deep want of wanting to help people. And I wanted to help them, not go through the same difficulties that I had, like they don't need to make the same mistakes. I made them for them, but how are they ever going to know that I'm here to help them if I don't exist anywhere near where they are? So trusting the process, is also trusting that you choose where you put your energy, and putting your energy in becoming visible is business development. And so I think we need to bring this back together. And also we need to eat, my landlord does not accept great testimonials as rent payments. And so that is a reality that we have to work with. And sometimes, even though I'm a coach and everything's supposed to flow, I have to do stuff that I don't really want to do, because that's how I need to pay my bills, And so I think we need to make it okay, to put these things next to each other, and that they work together. And creating your business and nurturing your business and doing marketing, and God forbid going to networking events, introvert here, and telling yourself stuff on social media, it's not about you. It's about giving the opportunity to others who need your services to know that it's there for them. And I think that is trusting the process.
Yeah. Right. It's like the Gita says, right? It says you don't own the results, you own your efforts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so Sudha asked a couple of questions. Bring her on spotlight and let her ask the questions, Lakshan.
Did you, I just want to say, Junaid, I think is how you say it. The second question you have, this is something that has taken me a long time to learn as a coach, that if someone is suffering, to not gloss over it and push them to the future vision, to acknowledge it, and that's okay to do as a coach. I mean, yes, we're future oriented, positive oriented, all that, but if they say, I'm really sad, the next question is not, well, if you weren't sad, what would you be? Then the next thing is, I hear you saying you're sad, right? So just to be present and to be with them for whatever that emotion is.
Yeah.
And being aware of your zone of competency, because helping outside of your zone competency is not helping. So there's a line to navigate there, and knowing that. But the first two tools I learned as a coach was acknowledge and validate, exactly like Elsie said. And in those situations where there is nothing else to do, those are the best tools that you can use.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Sudha. Yeah, Sudha, go ahead.
Thank you first and foremost for such rich examples from your own life stories. I think it was very useful. The first question that I had in mind is, as a supervisor, how do you deal with your developmental needs? Like as a coach, we can come to the supervisor, right? When you said for your formative, normative, and the restorative process, how do you deal with it?
Take it to a supervisor.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I go to my supervisor. I have a supervisor. I have two kinds of supervisors, right? So one is for my coaching and a couple of other things as well. And I regularly interact with my mentor, not necessarily a mentor coach, but a mentor. I have a supervisor. I have a therapist that I go to. And I've not had the need to have a coach so far. But yes, if tomorrow requires, I will work with a coach. If I'm holding a space as a supervisor, I also need that space for myself. So that applies exactly to me as well. And just to add, as supervisors, we do go to supervisors to take supervision on supervision as well. It's not just as a coach, but even as a supervisor, we go to our supervisors to get supervision on supervision also.
That's an interesting thing, actually, right? Like you get supervised on your supervision. So that becomes your topic for the discussion then. Okay. I'm just reminded, I don't know if, of Peter Hawkins, the 7-eye model that he brings into picture.
I
Okay.
like to call mine like my support system. And there are several different people in my support system. You know, like Rekha said, I've got supervisors, I've got coaches, I've got therapists, and I've got other stuff, you know, like maybe more body related and people that I've known for years and years, you know, and some more recent. But I think I like to know that I'm never operating like entirely on my own. Depending on what's going on for me, that there is someone in my support system that I can reach out to for help, whatever the kind of help that I need. And I think it's important as well to have that diversity of trusted, you know, support people that you can have, because life can get tough, and it's important to get support.
I want
Yeah,
to just add a metaphor to that. Sorry, Elsie, if I may. They say that you need a village to raise a child, you know. We need a village for us to grow as ourselves as a coach.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And the only thing I would add is that I just set it up so it's there. I don't have to think about it. It's not like I go, oh, I have something going on. No, it's a regular occurrence. And I may not think now, you know, because I just had a meeting with my supervisor yesterday or whatever, Monday, right? So I may not think I need it again in a month, but when the month rolls around, I always am sending a, hey, this is top of mind for me. So.
So, Sudha, what other questions do you have?
No, I think that's the only
You are,
question.
okay, we are on top of time. We are left with 3 minutes. I have one last question for all of you, and then we will hand it over to Madhu. All the supervisors here, one question, all of you have to respond to this. What's the one message you would give coaches about coaching supervision?
Yeah, I would say it's an incredible gift. Give yourself the gift.
I would say, I don't know. I have this quote that keeps coming back to me, and it's a silly quote. So I'm sorry, this is not what I want to say, but this is what's coming. You know, do it or don't do it. But there is no try. You know, Yoda knows best. But I think that we, as a coach, we often talk about accountability. You know, and I think that supervision is a great tool to keep yourself accountable within your coaching practice. It's not about adding new skills, you know, adding new certifications and whatnot. It's about like really giving yourself the opportunity to let flourish what is already inside of you, and I think it's a beautiful thing when you give yourself that gift, as Elsie said.
When you have the gift around, make use of it. That's all I would say. You don't have to walk this journey all alone yourself. You have people to support you. There is no shame in asking for support, because you're only going to grow and reach where you want to reach for yourself. We say
Thank
that we
you.
are all independent. We are not truly independent at all. We are interdependent with each other.
So there's one more message in the chat by Priya Ramesh. She's an MCC and EMCC Coach Supervisor. She says supervision is a necessity if you wish to honor the coach in you. That's the message. With that, Madhu, I'm handing it over to you, and you can do the rest of the gig.
Thank you so very much, for such
Spotlight
a
on Madhu. I don't see her. Hey, Madhu, where are you? Yeah.
thank you so much for such a wonderful dialogue. I was reminded of my team coaching training days where Rekha was our supervisor, and she had done group supervision for us. And it was such a enlivening experience having other coaches ask us, questions that they were curious about as to what we were going through during, that experience. So, and I fundamentally believe that it is the backbone of coaching supervision. And it was purely from the experience that I had during those training days. So thank you, Rekha, and thank you, lovely ladies, for sharing your experience, your stories, and for ending this series on such an important note on practice, which really ties into presence and prosperity. The series of our 5th anniversary. So thank you very much. I request all of you to stay with us for a couple of minutes, because this is the grand finale. We've been meeting every day for the last 2.5 weeks, all working days. Thank you so much for coming back every day. Truly is an honor to have all of you, and that's the community we're building. So before I officially close the series, I'd invite Sri and Lakshan, the co-founders of Guiding Light, to say a few words before I do the honors. Spotlight on them. Thank you.
Lakshan, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I wasn't
Why did
really
you put me on
expecting
spotlight?
this.
No, remove me from spotlight.
That was not me. Yeah, when we decided to put this thing together, it was in August. Okay, really, honestly, this was not very well prepped and thought out in advance. It's an idea that emerged in August, and we went ahead, came up with the theme, and a lot of credit actually for the theme emerging the way it did goes to one of the people who's in the session here today, Priya Ramesh. It came across from a conversation that Coach Sri had with her and Ramesh. It kind of emerged out of that, and yeah, we decided, okay, this is the theme. Let's find the topics that we want to talk about, and then find the people who would be exactly the right people to cover these topics. People who don't just give gyan and theory, people who actually live it, practice it, and speak from lived experience. And then it was a bit of a gauntlet, a lot of hard work from our end to make this happen. And it's lovely to see the way it's unfolded. We couldn't have imagined the way it would have turned out, and the support that we've been receiving from all of you from day dot. Thank you for as always placing your trust and faith in us, and the speakers for choosing to associate yourselves with Guiding Light, and for the people who've been participating in these sessions to spend 1-2 hours of your very, very hectic day every day with us, learning from some esteemed experts. So thank you so much for placing your trust and faith in us. In about another 350-ish days or so, expect a version 2.0 of a 6th anniversary bash. But I don't want to jump the gun and get ahead of myself. I want to take a bit of a break. My team also needs a break. But before we get to the break part, Coach Sri, your turn.
Right. Spotlight on me, Madhu. Yeah, so thank you
Spotlight is always
so
on.
very much for all of you who supported us and motivated us to have this series. Lakshan already mentioned this. Priya and Ramesh are our neighbors. I just went to invite them to come as a speakers for one of the sessions. The theme idea came from them. And then we reached out to all the coaches, some of them who I mentor, and some of them who are part of my coaching supervision cohort. I don't know how many of you, Cecile and Elsie, you know, I've heard of Peter Redding. Peter Redding is a veteran. He was part of the first ICF, the committee. He was not the president, he was the committee. He was part of when they formed the ICF core competencies and all of that. He has been in the space for many, many years. About a year ago, he retired from coaching education, but he still continues to coach. I had the privilege to interact with him through one of my other friends who is also a coach. That was what should I say? I don't know how to explain that. It's a different experience. So we had him on Monday, and that was a great experience. He said, "Thank you for inviting me, and please invite me for the next 6th anniversary celebration." We were very honored to hear him say that. And thank you, Cecile and Elsie, across time zones. I was wondering how I'm going to put this together, and you all supported. One more thing, and this I want to mention to you, Cecile and Elsie, is that after seeing the posters on LinkedIn, I don't want to take the name, but one of the faculty members reached out to me and say, "How come you forgot me?" I'm like, actually, it didn't even cross my mind that I could invite a faculty member to come and be a part of the panel discussion. So I said, next time I'm going to do it, I'm definitely going to invite. So I think we have raised the bar high, so we don't have a choice. So the next time we have to make it even more bigger. Unlike this time where we scrambled last minute and got this done in less than a month, we will plan advance and get it right the next time. And all the recordings will be available in a YouTube channel. We'll do it by end of the month or first week of October. The YouTube channel also is getting ready, so that's the delay. I want to thank all of you for close to about 1,400 registrations across all the 11 sessions that we had, including our celebration session. So the attendance has been across more than 40-50%. It's amazing. We had a great time, a huge learning for us across all the sessions as organizers and also as learners. Yeah. Okay, you can remove the spotlight.
I recognize that there's one person, not person, but in our gratitude, we've been speaking about how grateful we are for everybody who's chosen to speak and be a panelist for the sessions, and people like Srikanth who have attended all 10 of the sessions, and the others who have wanted to but haven't been able to. I also want to express my gratitude and thank the team behind Guiding Light. Like you see the three of us, myself, Coach Sri and Madhu, but the light only shines as bright as the shadow is dark. If they did not do their part, we would not be who we are. We would not be where we are. So I don't want to take any names. Because these people don't like to share the spotlight so much. I won't take names, but I really want to appreciate them for tirelessly striving day and night to help us put this event together, the series together. So Guiding Light team, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for the work that you've done, and thank you for supporting us, even though we've not always made it easy and accommodated your, accommodated your requests, so to say. We'll be better. We're growing. We'll be better. That's a personal promise and a promise from, I'm sure, like Coach Sri and Madhu as well.
Okay, we'll officially close. We have something special for you all. Lakshan?
Yeah, special for us. You are giving surprise to me also.
Yes.
Oh, what is going on? Oh.
As we bring Guiding Light's 5th anniversary series, Presence, Practice, Prosperity to a close, I'd like to pause for a moment of gratitude. Over these weeks, we have traveled together through conversations that reflected the heart of coaching. We began with presence, grounding ourselves in the essence of being fully here, fully human, fully coach. We moved into practice, exploring the tools, the mindsets, and the disciplines that sustain us as professionals. And we conclude today with supervision, a practice that not only strengthens us, but also leads us towards true prosperity in coaching. This journey has been enriched by every speaker, panelist, and participant who gave their time, their wisdom, and their presence. Your generosity in sharing experiences, stories, and insights has created a tapestry of learning that goes far beyond any single session. A heartfelt thank you to our moderators who skillfully held the space and guided our dialogues with clarity and depth. To our panelists and masterclass leaders, thank you for stretching our thinking and expanding what we see as possible in this profession. To our participants, thank you for showing up with curiosity and openness. Your engagement has been the true measure of this series' success. Finally, thank you to the Guiding Light community. For 5 years, you've walked with us in shaping coaches and the coaching profession. This series is not just a celebration of what has been, but a commitment to what lies ahead, building a profession that is ethical, sustainable, and impactful. With gratitude and joy, we close this anniversary series, carrying forward the spirit of presence, the discipline of practice, and the promise of prosperity. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next year. On the third,
for the
on
celebration,
the
for the anniversary celebration, but we will be having sessions happening every week. So please, we hope to see you before that. So, we'll have to see. I'll have to keep seeing all of you. It was an honor to put this together. And I was really thinking, I wish I could have found some way to take a screen recording of this session and add that to this video as well. But I had to handle the behind the scenes thing. I just wasn't able to get that done. So we plan for it better next time.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.